Good morning, class. Welcome to week 7. And this week we're going to be discussing transportation. Hey, let's get into it. Well, economic dynamics, unpredictable fuel costs, high safety, as well as social guidelines, increasing in customer anticipation, globalization, enhanced technologies, labor, as well as equipment deficiencies, a dynamic transportation service are some of the problems and opportunities which modern managers face. Perhaps it's not amazing that a number of managers find it hard to adapt with the changing world, leading to dismal performances as well as misplaced opportunities. It is important in the list of forfeited opportunities relates to completely leveraging the transportation role as an essential sensitive factor with respect to the supply chain. Transportation is very important in a flawless supply chain functions, transferring inbound inputs from supply areas to manufactured amenities, relocating inventory to and from distinct plants, as well as distribution points, and then taking manufactured or processed products to potential buyers. Advantages that ought to come from the best activities at the centers of supply, manufacturers as well as customer centers will never be achieved in the absence of the input of the best transportation planning as well as implementation. Having inventory ready for transportation is not adequate in case it cannot be cheaply delivered to the required destinations. There are major decision levels that require attention for transportation to achieve its highest effect in the supply chain. These are long-term decisions, lane and dock operations, as well as preferred mode. Well, let's take a look at the long-term decisions. At the premier strategic decision point, transportation ought to be conversant with aggregate supply chain movement, as well as the logistics of integrating input into the network plan. At this point, long-term courses of action affiliated to the suitability as well as the presence of transportation means for freight flow are available. Managers ought to formulate a decision. For instance, which principal means of transportation is suitable for every typical flow by the product as well as location, while apportioning meticulous considerations to consolidation possibilities where practicable. Plans ought to demonstrate the typical nature of good flows, such as volume, frequency, seasonality, as well as special operations requirements. Strategic mode, as well as carrier sourcing causes and courses of action ought to be regarded as section of a long-run network design, pointing out major carriers in every appropriate mode to improve service quality efforts, as well as add bargaining power. More so, managers ought to formulate decisions concerning the amount of outsourcing expected for every main product movement. So let's talk about the lane operation decisions. The next phase of a decision formulation entails the lane operation courses of action. In this case, network design courses of action entails long-run arrangements. These decisions concentrate on the day-to-day operational freight activities. At this point, transportation managers are prepared with up-to-date details on product requirements at different system nodes ought to be coordinated with the product flows down, inbound, within facility, as well as outbound transport to satisfy service requisites at the cheapest price. Decision formulators who are skilled at handling information can utilize consolidation possibilities while seeing it that products reach where they are required in the amounts they are needed and the right moment to ease the rest of the value-added processes. This leads to achievement of a transportation cost savings. The elementary opportunities related to the lane operation decisions are such as inbound, chronological, as well as vehicle consolidation. In case managers get access to inbound as well as outbound freight flow arrangements, they can pinpoint They can point out opportunities that merge for freight to develop volume. The next level entails a selection of mode as well as the carrier for Pacific freight transportation. Because of hazing of service abilities in conventional transportation modes, alternatives that anciently would be regarded as practical may become out of the appropriate choice. For instance, rail transport may provide a cheaper option compared to motor transport for the same service. In a sophisticated mode decision formulation, every consignment would be assessed focused on the service principle. Entire core carriers, without factoring in the mode, which could probably fulfill the service as well as the cost evaluation requisites, would be eliminated from the systems. Managers would, in addition, select the carrier out of this multimodal group depending on the availability as well as the current rates. Working in a non-asset-based arena, there is more flexibility to offer your customers different products to get their freight moving. Rail has longer transit days, but it can also be the cheapest, as stated earlier. However, due to inflexibility, there is always a link of ground transportation to go from the rail yard to the customer's door. Ground transportation or tractor trailers are the most widely used, and depending on the lane, freight can be inexpensive or expensive. Customers typically use this form because of the transit time. Pipeline usage is more for oils, chemicals, foodstuff. Again, you have restricted movement because of the infrastructure. Air freight can be costly, however, it is the fastest mode of transport. I was even surprised at the amount of freight that moves within the mode. Ocean freight is one that is slow, but the amount of freight moving at a time from port to port is massive. Once the freight is delivered, or once the freight gets into the port, there's a drayage or trucking companies are hauling it to its destination. Logistics managers have to choose the best mode to offer based on the needs of the customer. The last level of transportation decision entails load planning, direction finding, as well as scheduling is dock level operations. These processes cover the operational implementation of the greater level of scheduling decisions. Although the basic purpose of consigning docks has not undergone great changes, the way work is carried out has changed. One clear change relates to the prominent application of the advance of IT as well as decision backup systems. These instruments assist in the dock staff to optimize transportation capacity of a vehicle to the point it is highly effective routes, as well as better plan equipment, resources, as well as drivers on a particular day. Transportation sections that obtain better as well as timely details can draw out important benefits from a highly efficient as well as competent load planning, direction finding, and planning. For instance, in this case, a truck is being packed with several customer-ordered goods. Dock level managers ought to see that the driver is aware of the highly effective route, as well as that the goods are packed according to the criteria of the scheduled stops. Transportation ought to come up with the skills of applying of information apparatus present to assist with these courses of action. In conclusion, without considering external conditions, nevertheless, managers ought to advise their companies to evade the excitement of formulating transportation decisions based on short-run gains.